So, welcome back, and today we are going to be talking about the future, 2020 and beyond, and specifically the future dealing with piracy, how I think piracy is going to change, how I think things are going to take shape. And, there's a lot of the finer points that you really can't speculate on. For a long time, we wondered how interdiction would happen. We saw it, we realized not really working, and here's some possible things that could come along to make it work. But broadly, piracy, to a certain degree, it can be something of a difficult thing to predict. But I think if you kind of take this walk with me, I think I'll make some valid points, and I don't know. I don't want to be too cocky about it, but I do have a pretty good track record for predicting things in this game. I mean, let's be honest. I have predicted a heck of a lot of things. So, first of all, broadly, when you're going through the Stanton system and when we're seeing, the crime stat system and, the crime and punishment system, the bounty system, and all these things taking shape in the Stanton system, I think that this points directly towards the idea that overall, while there may be little refuges for pirates within the Stanton system, things like Grim Hex, things like Levski, ultimately, I don't think that piracy is going to be resident within the Stanton system in the future. Now, what future am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the future that they showed us at CitizenCon. Now, you may remember that at CitizenCon, of course, they showed us the journey to the system Pyro, and highlighted during that clip, and you can go back and watch it, they talk about Pyro and how Pyro is kind of like a devastated or a spoiled system. No one really lives there anymore, so there's no real sense in securing it. And I do believe that ultimately that is going to be the main refuge for pirates, especially Ruin Station, which when they talked about traveling to Ruin Station, I was a little bit disappointed that they didn't show it, but hopefully when we do finally get to see Ruin Station, it's going to be amazing. But I think that what CIG is endeavoring to create is certainly with the current state of the Stanton system, with security, with bounty missions and all of that, is that they are trying to shape the way the community is going to move, and they want pirates to move off to these low security systems. They don't want Stanton to be 100% safe, but they want it to be something that you dip into occasionally to maybe launch a bit of a raid, but then immediately go back out to the Pyro system, or maybe at some later date smuggling stolen goods back into Stanton to sell them at various black market locations. I have a feeling that what CIG is aiming for is to make Stanton a bit more safe for everyone. And certainly with the prison missions and all of that, they are really trying to amp up the penalties for criminal behavior in the Stanton system, because they want to show it off as being a safe place to play. They want to kind of shape the way the community is going to behave, and they want to move the pirates over into Pyro. And I think that is kind of what we are going to see happen. Some people have complained that, all of a sudden you get 5 crime stat and there's a bounty mission and everyone can see where you are in a star system. Well, with the communications infrastructure, the satellites, all that, of course they can see where you are. Of course they can see where you're traveling. But in a system like Pyro, those services may not be there. You may get a bounty mission that says someone's here in the solar system, but good luck finding them, because none of this infrastructure has been maintained. And that's going to be, I think, kind of how CIG kind of shapes where we all kind of take residence within, Star Citizen itself. That's going to be how they kind of build the community out. Pyro is going to be kind of like a pirate safe space, whereas Stanton is going to be ever increasingly not a safe space for pirates. And I think that that is going to be one of the big changes that we are going to see once Pyro comes into the game. Is you're going to see a lot of pirates taking ships over to Pyro and basing themselves out of Ruin Station or whatever other landing sites they have at that area. Now, the idea of the jump gates as they were shown to us at CitizenCon made a few people a little bit nervous. Made a few people, a little uncomfortable in the pirate community, because it's like, so our only way into Stanton is this regulated kind of port and jump portal, into the system. I mean, that means we have to fly right past the authorities to get into the system. Everyone's going to know that we're here. It's possible, but they also hinted at the fact that there would be unregulated jump points. You can go back and you can watch the video, but Todd Pappy very clearly talks about the fact that there are going to be jump points that aren't this safe and aren't this well, kind of taken care of, maintained. These unregulated jump points. And this goes all the way back to the very beginning of Star Citizen, when they talked to us about the idea of being able to discover jump points that aren't on the map. So it is entirely possible that there may be other wormholes out there that we have yet to discover, yet to explore. So certainly a pirate ship that has a little bit of exploration attached to it might come in handy for finding these kind of back doors into systems like Stanton or other regulated systems. I think that even though I wasn't someone who was very keen on these kind of regulated jump portals in the first place, hearing that once again brought forward from it was one of those relics of the past that they talked about, and you were wondering, are they still going to do that? And to hear it directly referenced, and to have them speak about it in the affirmative, like, yes, this is going to be a thing that we're going to do, was very good. I was very happy overall hearing that, and I know a lot of people will probably be nervous about the idea of, I can only travel through these specific jump points, but it's possible that there are going to be these unregulated ones, or it's very likely that there are going to be these unregulated ones. So I think that overall our ability to operate within Stanton, at least for a limited amount of time, and get things done, and then basically escape outwards with the booty, so to speak, I think that it is going to remain. It's going to end up being something that is within the province of players who are a little bit more prepared and a little bit more thoughtful about what they do and how they do things, which I think is ultimately a great idea. Now, one of the long-standing, kind of fears or, assertions that some of the Star Citizen community have made is that piracy should be difficult, piracy should be hard. And I wholeheartedly agree. It shouldn't be an easy life, and certainly the way they're building it out in Stanton reflects that. But Pyro is, basically what Stanton would be for, newer players or the uninitiated. Pyro would be for pirates. Pyro would be the pirate playground. It would be basically where you kind of figure things out. It's going to be something of a free-for-all. It's going to be a dangerous system. It's not going to be, Stanton. It's not going to be, all these other regulated safe spaces that, Star Citizen currently has. So when you're looking at all these challenges that you're facing with all of, the law enforcement issues within Stanton, Pyro's going to remove a lot of that, but alternately, you may have to deal with other pirates, which can be challenging or, well, let's face it, sometimes not very challenging, depending on whether they're NPCs or players. But obviously, Pyro is going to be one hell of an interesting system. Now, in the past, we've talked about certain ideas, like when a game ages, when a game progresses, there are certain things that came in the beginning of the game that certainly looked really amazing when they came in, but against the newer stuff, it kind of looks a little bit dated and almost like it doesn't belong in the game anymore. I think Lorville is definitely going to be a site that is going to get a revisit at some point in the future, because when you look at Lorville compared to Area 18 or New Babbage, it doesn't compare. It's kind of unfortunate, really, but Lorville, from far it looks good, but from up close it's not that great. And I'm not talking about the interiors, because the interiors are amazing, but from the outside it looks a little video gamey. It looks, I don't know, it just feels out of place, whereas a place like New Babbage is certainly built into the terrain. Lorville looks a lot different. But as a game progresses, as a game develops, certainly you get those bigger and better things. And I think that Pyro is certainly going to benefit from that. Obviously, much more complicated environments. This is going to be where we're going to start to see the introduction of volumetric clouds, which are, clouds that aren't just something painted on the background, but something that you actually pass through and travel through. The asteroid fields, the wreckage of the Akiro cluster, and of course there's so much more going on in the Pyro system. And the last time we got a lore makers update, I think, was in 2016 is when we got the lore makers update. I think that was actually the only one, but that talked a little bit about Ruin Station and very, very lightly touched on it, which is, it's this old what is it, the New Horizon or the New Golden Horizon station that's existing around Pyro 6, which is, a planet that for some reason they put a terraforming station around a planet that couldn't be terraformed. And I don't know, I think we're going to get, it's going to be a much more destitute existence. It's going to be a much more difficult existence, but I think that we're going to get a much richer and a much more immersive environment out of Pyro than we get out of Stanton. I think that there's going to be a considerable amount of envy and a lot of people wandering into Pyro to check it out, which could benefit the pirates a lot. Now, one of the topics that comes up from time to time is the idea of base building. When are we going to get access to base building? What form is it going to take? And I honestly don't think that until we get to true persistence, you're going to see base building really move forward in the eyes of CIG. But I think that by the time we do get it, Pyro is probably where pirates are going to end up building some of their first bases. When you look at the description of the system, it was largely a mining system, an industrial system that was just played out, that was just strip mined of everything good. So there's probably a lot of derelict sites there that maybe, who knows, in the future we may be able to fight over and then base out of if we conquer them. Or there may be lots of forgotten little corners that are ideal for setting up a base. I think that by the time we get to base building, we're probably going to see the introduction of a flight-ready, medium-sized base building ship, the precursor to the Pioneer, or something that comes along with the Pioneer. I don't have any confirmation on that, but that is my theory. I believe that is what we're likely going to see. And there's probably going to be a lot of pirates because Pyro isn't going to be that heavily traveled as Stanton is, because it's going to be unsafe. There's going to be a lot of pirates who choose to pick an asteroid or a quiet little location on a moon where there are far fewer players and set up their little operation there, whether it's a drug lab or a way station for ill-begotten goods on their way to being smuggled onto the market and money being made, that sort of thing. I think you're going to see really the heaviest pirate base building being done in the Pyro system. So I think that it's going to be a very interesting place. It's going to be a very cool place. And I think that Pyro really is the future of pirates. When are we going to see Pyro? Well, you know what? Let's take a minute to actually kind of think about the roadmap, what we're seeing on the roadmap, and what is the likely outcome. So if you look at the roadmap, beyond June of next year, there really isn't anything on the roadmap, right? And that is when we're going to get Crusader. In the interim, of course, new Babbage is going to be fleshed out. So Microtech Crusader are done, and that kind of represents the Stanton system being finished. Now, of course, it's going to have to be populated more. There's going to be many other pieces that kind of come into it to make it feel like a living, breathing star system, all the Tony Zurevec stuff, all of these wonderful things. But, you know, that is more or less the major construction, the big, heavy, hard work for the Stanton system done. Pyro, I think, is going to be something that we are going to get. Not with the introduction of 4.1, though it's possible. I think that Pyro is going to be kind of held back until CitizenCon / anniversary sale. If they break things up this year and go to the two different events format, which frankly I don't think that they should, but if they do, we might see it with 4.1. But I think that it's probably going to all be packaged up and delivered, possibly with a delayed 4.1 in November prior to December, and they're going to kind of use that as kind of a carryover into next year, and maybe just deliver some updates, some fixes, and some polish with 4.2, which would be this time next year. I think that is probably the likely outcome. I mean, it could be delayed. It is, after all, an entire different star system, but that star system may not be fully populated for some time. So I think that chances are, by this time next year, we will have Ruin Station and we will have the Pyro system, though it may not be entirely finished in terms of population, in terms of other destinations. But I think that it's going to be interesting. As the game develops, as the prison system comes into play, as, you know, there is iteration and refinements put into the bounty hunting system, Pyro is going to end up being that safe refuge for pirates, that kind of safe space. And I want to kind of reemphasize the idea that Pyro 6 is kind of way out there on the fringe of the system. So one of the other things that I think that you're going to see is a lot of pirate players are going to be moving to ships that have longer legs, you know, better ability to cover distance. I think, hopefully, with the introduction of some heavier ships, you're going to see pirates moving more towards things like Corsairs and Star Runners if they ever get built, but you're going to see a lot of interim ships like Constellations, Loners, Retaliators, Cutlasses, and not a lot of fighters, just because of the distance being traveled and the fact that most of the infrastructure in the system is gone. And so I think that largely that is what what you are going to see as players move into the Pyro system. You're going to see a lot of the lighter ships being cast off, and a lot of the more medium ships, the ships with better ability to cover range, those ships are going to be far more popular with pirates, and you're going to see that definite shift. With the introduction of Pyro, that a lot of the pirates are just going to throw their fighters away, or they're just going to basically stash them away and say, at some point when the Idris or the Kraken get in the game, I'll revisit this, but for now, it's going to be Cutlass or Freelancer Miss or nothing in terms of like the smallest that people will go with ships, and if they're pirates. When you're looking at the distances, the fighters just aren't going to be relevant until there's a way to transport them. So, with the introduction of the Pyro system, frankly, you know what you got to do. You got to build it. You already got the assets. You got most of it already there. You just got to put it together. CIG, do the right thing. Put the Corsair on the schedule. Lock it down. Get it done in time for Pyro. the two would go together like PB&J. So let's just get started on the Corsair. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.